Welcome to the new people. And I don't want to put you on the spot, especially since you're new, so I won't. But if you please, I hope you'll engage. We're all friendly little people here. We're just these cartoon characters. So welcome. Okay, this is the Donor Story Mastermind Mixers. It's mostly based on Dr. James' e-course, but it's kind of been morphing. And we're getting into other topics. In fact, today is one of them because I'm going to talk to you about, I'm going to show you a email that one of my friends received here in DC, and he forwarded it to me. I had this whole plan to do something more deep with regard to Dr. James's research and talk about costs and how donors think about costs and how tax write-offs diminish the cost of giving and things like that. And I'm going to get to that some other time because I got this email from my friend Rob, who owns a government tech government contractor here in the DC area. Throw a dart in DC and you probably hit a government contracting company, right? So my friend Rob owns one of those. He's got 100 people working for him. I'm sure he shows up on all the well screening and everything else. So he got an outreach email from someone at his alumni. He went to Cornell, and he shared it with me, and we'll get into that. And in the end, this fundraiser failed at landing the meeting, but it wasn't really a failure, and we'll go through that. I think it was a pretty good email, actually. So before we get into that, we'll talk about housekeeping. And by the way, hi, for those who don't know me, I'm Greg Warner. I'm the CEO and founder of MarketSmart. I'm basically the resident inventor and visionary is what they like to call me. I don't run the business. The people who are on this call are some of the people who run the business. God bless them. They're the best and amazing, and they keep me out of trouble. And thank you for showing up. Yes. So, all right. Remember that anybody who's involved in your organization can attend these events. So if you get some value out of this and you like it, invite your boss, invite your board members, anybody, any staff that you want. This is for MarketSmart customers mostly, and e-course students if you've paid to take the course. And so you can feel free to share the meeting link with anybody. Some people have put them on their calendar as repeating because it's always the same time once a month. So think about that. And there's usually, I think there will be, maybe Trisha, you can signal, there should be a survey at the very end if you're comfortable. I'm always looking for feedback because I just want to increase the value of this so that more and more people come, and it's free. So, and the last thing, I'm always supposed to remind people that if you're taking the e-course, it is an annual subscription is the way it works. If you don't want to continue at the end after you finish the course or whatever, you don't have to. But remember, one payment for the course makes it for anybody in your organization can take the course. So it's one price for everybody. And of course, we love referrals. So if you're happy with the course or happy with MarketSmart, and you know someone who would think much more highly of you for having referred them to us once they get the value out of working with us, then please do. All right. All right. So we're going to talk about a failed request for a meeting from a fundraiser. And the prospective donor was my friend Rob. I won't give you his last name. I don't think it matters. And we're going to review the email sent by this fundraiser. I blotted out their name and such. And we're going to talk about it. I think that the group is small enough that we'll just stay here and chat, and we'll talk about it. I'll try and get out of you what you think she did right and what maybe she could have done differently. And then we'll have this open discussion. I already created a list of like 10 or 12 things that she did right and wrong, but I won't show you that until after the discussion. We'll see how many we pick off. And then I'm going to give you a little foreshadowing and tell you that the big problem here, and this will all make sense in the end, the big problem with her failed attempt is that she had a bad list, even though she definitely was going after a very wealthy, philanthropic minded person. I'm 54. He's a little older. He's almost 60. I'm pretty sure he's 58. But I know he lives in a big house. He gives a lot of money away and all that stuff. So if you're brave enough to share your outreach emails or talk about what you do, we'll maybe get into that as well. And yeah. So, all right, you ready? Here it is. I hope it's big enough for you to see. I'll keep my mouth shut and let you take a look at this first email. All right, give me some nods or something or wave when you're done. All right. It's kind of looking like the people I can see are done. Yeah. All right, I'm going to show you the follow-up email because he didn't respond. All right, and then I'll show you, I wrote to him because he forwarded the string to me and said, hey, was this from your system? Is this a machine? Is this AI? Is this Market Smart that's sending me this email? Or is this is this a real human? What do you think? And I said, no, they're not a customer, so it's definitely a real human. And then I just said, what's your approach? What do you think of her approach? And he gave me his mixed reaction, which I'll let you read here. All right. Francesca, can you give me a nod? Are you done? You good? Yeah. All right. Tim, you good? Yep. All right. So let me go back to the first email and and we'll talk about that. Who's got thoughts? Who's brave? And good and bad. I mean, there's a lot of good here, by the way. Maybe I'll call on a Market Smart person.
Well, I noticed that she uses the word philanthropy a lot.
It's interesting, right? Yeah. What do you think about why do you mention that? What are your thoughts about the word philanthropy?
I don't even know if it's the word philanthropy so much as it's just repeated over and over and over again. And I have a real problem with that myself, where I latch onto a word in a letter or an email or something, and I tend to use it. I don't use enough synonyms. It's really kind of boring, and people check out if they keep seeing that word.
Interesting. I know there's been some research where the word philanthropy, especially generationally, can be very disaffecting. Younger people and even older people who have a lot of money often don't think of themselves as philanthropists. and they think of that as being, well, I'm not one of those stuffy people. Like, they think of who's the Monopoly guy, with the top hat and the fat cat with money flying all over the place. And they're
Well,
like, not me.
Rob said as much in his feedback. He said, yeah, like, I'm not Bill Gates. I'm not, that person. What I give is a drop in the bucket. He does not see himself on that level.
Yeah, that's interesting because I know he gives to the tune of thousands and tens of thousands of dollars.
I was on a call yesterday with wealth advisors from all over the world, basically. And a lot of people in the UK apparently don't like to be called philanthropists. They don't want to be viewed as philanthropists. I'm not sure what's behind that, but I just thought that was an interesting comment.
Yeah. Now, there is a degree of qualification going on here with this person, by the way. So she's sending this to just, I would figure, anybody who's got a certain wealth screening score who is a alum in the DC area. She probably got a big list, and perhaps using the word philanthropy separates the people who are truly philanthropic minded and see themselves that way. Maybe I'm giving her too much credit for thinking that way.
I like how she set the table about what could happen during this meeting. I think she did that extremely well.
Yep.
But she immediately followed it up with, but you may not be interested. And I would change that and just say, I'm looking forward to connecting with you. I'd be more of the mindset, I want to hear from you what's important to you, instead of closing the door on herself. And I think that's what she did here.
Yeah, can you elaborate more? Like which part? The I do not assume?
I do not assume. It was like, wait, that kind of tells me you did assume.
The do not assume sentence comes from a particular, and I won't name the training company. If any of you know, please don't say it. But there's a fundraising training company that is pretty popular that strongly recommends that you have a sentence like this. I agree. I don't know how they tested it or whatever. It's an interesting sentence. Does anybody else or Stephanie, do you have more thoughts on it? It looks like.
I guess I just would like the door to be open. I'd like her to be a lot more donor centric in that I'm here to hear from you. It sounds like she kind of set the table because these are all on her checklist of things she needs to determine if Rob is interested in or not. And that, to me, if it's their first meeting, would not be what this meeting is about. It would be a getting to know you meeting.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my take.
Yeah. I saw.
I
Steve,
won't say who
I
it
knew
is.
Steve was going to say something. Good. I was about to call on you.
I won't say anything because I know who it is. Yes.
You know the training company. Yeah.
So I won't say that. Thank you for reminding me. What I would say is there are different variations on this letter from this particular, and this person, the author of this letter, she has modified, of course, which makes sense. She's modified. I think what's good about the letter is she's being transparent about what she's trying, she's trying to be upfront. So the recipient, Rob, knows, look, this is my job. You support Cornell. I want to talk with you about that. I've seen people and I don't know what, for example, anyone else's thoughts. Instead of that second sentence in the second paragraph, what I've also seen sometimes is people using, some alumni are interested in philanthropy in the near future. Others may be interested others may also be interested in volunteer opportunities or serving as an ambassador. I'd like to explore with you going forward how you would like to be involved with Cornell. And so it's softening, admittedly, a little bit, but it's saying, you know, she's not saying here, I'm your go-to person. That's another thing that I've seen. I'm your go-to person if you want to know what's going on about Cornell, or have questions about Cornell. Like I'm your trusted Cornell person. Does that
I'm
make
your
sense?
insider, your VIP conduit.
Yes, right. Like your concierge, you know, all things
Yes.
Cornell. So it's interesting to me, that second sentence, because I've not seen that particular approach where she is talking about both current and planned giving, really, right? She's throwing out the estate plan. I don't usually see that in these types of letters, and that's interesting to me. But that's all my comment, you know. But I
Yeah.
think it's good that she's transparent. And I agree with you, Greg, or others. I don't know about saying I do not assume you wish to be more involved. I think that kind of undercuts what what you're trying to, you know, if they are not interested, they're not interested. They're not going to say, how dare you. Rob's not going to say, how dare you send me this letter. I don't think.
Really kind of
Right.
kills the momentum of
Mhm.
you know, it takes the air out of it. And I'll be honest, because I know too much, and you know the company that recommends that sentence, it's almost like it was thrown in there and monkey wrenched in there to check the box that she did it, but it really wasn't. It didn't do the job. I think it's nice that we tell somebody we're not making assumptions about how much they want to give or even consider giving. I get it, but it just seems monkey wrenched in there. Anyone feel the same? Or maybe how about the transparency aspect? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, this is pretty straightforward and transparent, which I do agree. I can't remember who said that. I mean, both of you, Stephanie and Steve. Level of transparency, what do you think? Too transparent? Not enough?
I like the transparency, but I would have warmed this up quite a bit. This is their first date. It's uncomfortable for me.
I can see it in your reaction. You know, it's like, where's the love? It's like, it's sort of like it's a transactional person trying to sort of be engaging, but not quite knowing how to add the love.
Forgive me for jumping in. I know this is not meant for me, but I'm going to offer my 2 cents.
You know a lot. Jen, by the way, is an
customer success manager.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here.
I'm one of those things. So what strikes me about this is it is very agenda driven. If I were Rob, I wouldn't have responded either, because what's in it for me? So what? You're in DC. So what? You want to talk about giving? What am I getting out of this? But giving you my time and potentially my money. So I agree with Stephanie in that, you know, if I would have been met with a message that said, you know, I work with people who are pretty connected and I'd love to get to know you and just see, you know, what your thoughts are about Cornell, where we're at, what you envision. You know, it's a first date. Like, let's learn each other's families first before we like skip to the wedding. You know? So that's kind of what I noticed. And, you know, I try to practice this as much as I can in my communications too, where if I'm asking a question about a meeting, and the question is, would you like to meet? I kind of need to let them answer that before I jump into my schedule is booked until this date, but I have openings this date. Like, I understand the wanting to put it all out there, and make it convenient maybe, but like you're then assuming that we're going to schedule a meeting and this person wants to do that. And then the last point I'm going to make about this is it's lengthy. People, and I don't do this for a living, so take this with a grain of salt, but people skim emails. I mean, Greg, even when you flashed it up, I just looked up at the top and then I kind of skimmed a little bit and then, oh yeah, and kind of went back. If you don't catch somebody's attention in the first couple sentences or, towards a PS or something like that, what are the odds that they're going to read through the whole thing? So these are all just little points, food for thought for the group.
I have so many thoughts, but
I agree with Jen on the length. I would have taken that whole second paragraph. That's the agenda, and turn it, warmed it up into one sentence that says, I'm in DC because I want to hear what our alumni are saying and connect. What's on your mind? Especially if it's a first date. It's I have this problem. The reason I can see it is because I have this problem myself where I've got a list of strategies and I haven't even, I've done my research on the person generally, and a lot of times, I've got a strategy that I think would work, and I haven't done the first bit of discovery to find out what I really don't know, so to keep myself from doing that, I just want to say, what's on your mind? Because I'm here to listen. That's my first job.
Tim, I sensed that. Yeah, come on in.
Yeah.
My friend.
And two things. One is, we all have donors that are cut to the chase. Just tell me what you want. And she's not there. She's not even close to being there. There's a whole lot of water that needs to go under that bridge before she's there. And this is a little cut to chase of like, okay, I'm coming to town. I want to talk about philanthropy. Get your checkbook ready. Let's go. So yeah, Jen, I agree with you. We're way, we haven't gotten to the courtship and we're consummating the marriage here. So that's one thing. The other is that I never want to put myself in the position of making an assumption of a donor's intention. I never want to be in the place where I'm like telling the donor what they should be doing, how much you should be going. Oh, you're not interested. That's not my job. That's their job. And maybe they don't ever tell that to me and I have to make assumptions, but she was very much jumping ahead and making assumptions about what the donor is thinking. And I don't ever want to do that. That's especially for somebody who clearly is, giving and is a philanthropist, whether they think of themselves that way or not. So those are my 2 cents.
I'd say it's more like a nickel.
Ooh, thank you. I got a raise.
I was going to say something that I think sticks out is also, or what I think you could assume potentially based on the way that they're going about this tactic, and what's missing is sort of even outside of the lines of the email itself, of just there's probably a lack of a true pre-qualification strategy where there are people and processes that are solely dedicated to taking a slow discovery route at first, whether it's people again or marketing, and just giving them opportunities in addition to meeting one-to-one. Maybe it's through marketing, maybe it's through events, maybe it's through social media, but giving them opportunities to just say if they're even ready for some more impactful conversation with the institution. Without that, then the gift officer's left having a meeting coming up or a visit coming up in a month or whatever it might be, and just trying to pack it in last second by sending out this email to a bunch of people, and hoping they can get one or two more. So it sort of, I think, just speaks to taking a very, transactional approach to identifying who's ready, rather than taking a long-term, approach that involves a true discovery process. But I'm sure there is one. It's Cornell, I'm sure they have a leadership annual giving team, but not everyone fits into that process.
Jalita?
Hello. Hi,
Hello.
good morning.
We were wondering
it's
when you will
afternoon.
join us.
wanted to hear a bit more because unfortunately I couldn't read the letter. So I wanted to hear a little bit more of the discussion. But one of the things with Market Smart is that the pre-qualification, when I start, like I'm on a trip right now to Chicago and Illinois, the state, and I have enough donors to fill up another week, but I had to choose. So what I did, and I don't just blanketly send out the same letter to everyone. I really try and focus those letters and find something that would connect with that individual. And I'm a plan giving officer, so it's not like, I don't know if this person is in annual giving, which she may just have a blanket approach, or just the major gifts. I'm not sure. But as a plan giving officer, I want someone that's been giving to the museum where I work for some time. And I thank them for that. And then, of course, my hook is I want to hear more about your story. There's so much going on. I know you say so-and-so served in the Pacific, but I'm going to be out there, and I would just love to have coffee or lunch and just hear what you have to say, your connection to the museum. So that has been very successful for me. I don't know if it's the right thing to do, but at least I'm getting these meetings and I'm thrilled about that. So I'm on meeting number 3 today, and I'm headed back into downtown Chicago. And then I'm going to explore the state and meet some of the other donors throughout the state. But that's what I've been doing. I make my letters very personal and very short. Thank you.
Yeah, Shalita. So for those who haven't been on these calls, Shalita is one of our rock stars, I would say, and it works for the World War II Museum. There are stories. Everybody has stories. Every cause, the donors have stories. The thing that Shalita's and Jeff mentioned that I'll try to help you all visualize a little bit better is that when quote unquote marketing to major or legacy donor prospects, people, let's just call them people. When marketing to these supporters and caring individuals, there's sort of this air support and there's boots on the ground, right? Air support is mostly what Market Smart does, where we're trying to help draw engagement through inviting people to tell their story, provide feedback. And that can be, I mean, like inviting them to take a survey is fairly generic. You don't have to hyper personalize a request for someone to take a survey, or even you don't have to hyper personalize your air support automated marketing emails, which is what our system does over time. It's the more personalized, the better, but you run the risk of being spooky if it's too personalized early in the stages of the relationship. But this is what I call a boots in the ground, like where she's trying to be boots on the ground with this individual. And the closer you get to boots on the ground, the more necessary it is that you use pre-qualification data, which is usually qualitative data that the donor supplied, not transactional or quantitative data based on how much they gave or how frequently they give, things like that. What works best for boots on the ground is highlighting, and of course, Cornell's not a customer, but highlighting, because you said Professor Stevens changed your life back in 1979, I wanted to let you know that Professor Stevens is actually still here. And I'm going to be in town, and I'd love to hear your story about why you said in the survey that Professor Stevens changed your life. And I'm not making any assumptions. So yes, I'm a fundraiser, and if you want to talk about philanthropy, that would be great. But if you don't, that's okay too. I just would love to hear your story and help you regain that connection. So
that's exactly right. That's it. And those stories that I bring and the stories that they give allow us to figure out where we're going to go and what is going to have them make that decision that they want to go further and become a member of the Stephen E. Ambrose Legacy Society. So it's all about stories, and I'm listening, and I'm also pitching as well and telling our stories about people who are joining. So it's kind of give and take, but I don't really ask at the beginning, even though they've taken the survey. I really work them, and it is really a wonderful, rewarding experience that I'm having.
Can you elaborate on that? Why?
Why what?
Why is it a rewarding experience?
Because it's a win-win. They know I'm a fundraiser. I do tell them I'm a director of development, and they have a story to tell, and I want to make sure that story is captured at the museum. And then once that story is told about their loved one, I want to be able to tell a story about them supporting the museum by leaving a part of their legacy. And then we also have other materials that I can get to support them with telling their story and leaving the legacy by producing a book that speaks about, writing a book rather, that the museum can do to support upcoming generations, and so that legacy is not going to be lost. I view it as a win-win. I don't know if I'm elaborating enough as I focus on this drive I'm taking, but that's what I see it as a win-win, because I have something to offer to them, and they have something to offer to us as well.
So I'm going to point out, throw down some bullet points, because all this is in Dr. James' research and in the course. Number one, what you're doing, and it gives me chills whenever I hear these stories. I love you people and what you do for our world, is that you find the intersection of their life story and your cause. And
Yes.
You're adept at doing that, and you know how to really focus right in on finding the connection and then deepening it and widening it, but with a keen, you are determined to make it a fair exchange of value that you can provide them in exchange for them sharing their wealth to support your cause. So there's the intersection, there's zeroing in on that, and then there's trying to make it a win-win. One other thing, Jeff, before I get to you, is one simple way to do this, and I was doing this with Laura and another fella in some individual training I was doing, is try to focus on in writing, and even when you're speaking, in how many times do you say the word I? And before you write it or before you say it, if you sense in your own brain, you playing chess in your head, you're like, I'm about to say I, change your sentence to make it a you sentence for the donor. I hope that makes sense. But try to make everything about them and how they benefit, not about you and what you want. And in this case, particularly her boss probably knows she's got a couple meetings in DC and said, well, go get some more. Right? So she's like, all right, well, I'll send out a fairly generic thing to a whole bunch of people. It won't take me a lot of time. I can send it out to 400 people and see what happens. And if I can get a fish on the line because of the urgency and the closing window of the period of time, and I'll probably get the people who are really ready because it's clear, I'm here. Let's do it. But that's not a deepening of the relationship. That's a very transactional way of going about it. I'm trying not to talk too much and pontificate, but Jeff, go ahead. You're a salesman, right? People get on the phone with Jeff. I don't know how many of you have been sold by Jeff, but I hope if you were, you didn't feel like you were. I don't think he's that kind of salesperson. So anyway, how's that introduction?
Yeah, I'll take it. No, but what I was gonna say actually does dovetail into what you were just saying of the I versus you. I think in it I just thought about it as Shalita was mentioning her story and even thinking about the follow-up Rob gave you. I think there's plenty of people who are truly philanthropists and think of themselves as capable of great things in terms of philanthropy within your mix, but there's a lot of people like him who actually can do a lot, but think that they're not able to or not of as much significance. And it seems like a big part of whether it's in this email or in person like Shalita is doing, a big part of it is just making them feel like you do matter. In a sense, you can actually do something of importance, not for us, but for you, for your story, in a sense. And we're just sort of the vehicle to facilitate that process. But yeah, so I just think it comes back to you, in terms of, you're just relaying it to the email itself. But that's at the end of the day, the offer is to let them actually feel like, they matter and that their story matters. Yeah, the other thing I wrote down that I think is just interesting is we all talk about qualification all the time. And yet, even though it's right there in the word, we rarely sort of as an industry put into context that a lot of that qualification is going to require qualitative data. It still ends up going back to kind of a transactional quantitative kind of measure of, do they have capacity? Do they have affinity? But the truth is, the real sort of catalyst will be if from a qualitative perspective, they feel like, and you can help them do this, they matter, and that their story needs to be, sort of honored in that regard through their philanthropy.
Excellent points. I have another thing to show you all, but I can stay on this if I want to. I'm not going to call on you individually, but I will just kind of shout out, Emily, Karen, William, Brian, Brittany, Francesca, if any of you have any thoughts before I pivot, or anybody else. Okay, no worries. So let me stop sharing this, and I'm gonna, but no, before that, I promised to show you guys my list. So I guess I better do that. Sorry, I'll do that. And then I'll pivot to the other thing I was gonna show you for today, and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, yeah, so the subject line I thought was clear and to the point. It's a little cold, but at least it's clear and to the point. It did get him to read it. So I figure, well, it worked because he did read it. Again, very direct. I work for Cornell alumni on their philanthropy. Maybe that word philanthropy, not so great, but the directness and the transparency I felt was worthwhile. But I thought, and someone else mentioned this, it wasn't so easy to read. I talk about this in my book. There's even a graphic on like bolding or using bullet points, just kind of designing an email to make it lighter and easy for people to skim. Go into writing your communications knowing that they're going to skim it. We all do. And if you could monitor your own brain as you read an email, and we all get a lot of junk email, what do we do? Like in it, we are very good at determining, is this going to provide any value for me? Like, does it resonate? Is it personalized for me? And is there value for me? And then you'll skim through and you'll be like, where's the value? What's in it for me? And you do this in like a second or 3 seconds. And if you can't find the value, what happens? Delete. So I think there could have been a little breaking out of that. There was urgency, which is a very powerful influencer, but it would really only work for the people who are like, oh yeah, it's good. It's kind of like the ice cream man or ice cream person, when we were kids, you hear the bells and you're like, yay, let's go get our ice cream. Well, yay, the fundraiser is going to be in town, so I get to talk to them. I don't know. It's not really feeling like quite the same, but that feeling when you miss the ice cream person and they're going down the street, you're like, darn it. So I think they're trying that a little bit there. I don't know if you like my, analogy. Clarity. Why would they meet? Our meeting would be an opportunity for me to hear about you. Yeah. Okay. Again, that's clarity, but only if the timing is right for this individual, which is the big problem with this is in the end, is that she has no idea if the timing is right because she has no pre-qualification. Thank you for using our word, Shalita, because Market Smart is really a pre-qualification company. If you really want to boil it down, we used to, the whole sector was about identification, and then fundraisers had to do qualification. And 2/3, according to the research, of the identified donors are not qualified to talk to you, mostly because the timing isn't right. So what we do is the pre-qualification, and that's a word that just hasn't been used in the sector, but Shalita knows it. Thank you. And timing is one of the most powerful among those preliminary qualifiers. Did they say that the timing is right for them to have this kind of discussion?
Hey, Greg, may I ask a question there?
Yeah.
You were talking about using the word philanthropy and using it in terms of bringing clarity and that sort of thing. Are better words, let's just use this sentence that you have on number 3. Would it have been better to say something like, our meeting would be an opportunity for me to hear about your interest and engagement with Cornell, your interest in the activities happening on campus, that kind of language instead of just plain out philanthropy? Would that be better?
Yes. Thank you. And is it William or Bill?
Billy's fine.
Billy. So always remember the consideration continuum for making a highly considered decision. And the best way that we can do this is if you've engaged in buying a car, buying a house, spending a lot of money on travel, something like that, you go through a consideration continuum that's very similar to what a major donor will be.
Sure.
So the stages of the process generally begin with moving from a sort of general awareness to a deepening of interest to build desire. So if awareness is well, I'm aware of Cornell. I mean, I went there, but then the question, and you're highlighting this in couldn't she have, is recognizing where the donor is, which she doesn't know because she doesn't have our system or pre-qualification data. But if she did, then she would be able to craft her email based on where he said he was, and then recommend ways for him to deepen his involvement if the timing's right and in categories that resonate with him.
Sure.
I hope that made sense.
It does. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, the high level trick to this, I hate the word trick because these aren't tricks, but is to always begin a communication by determining where you are pretty sure or believe the donor resides in the consideration continuum as the starting point for how you craft your message. Because someone who has told you multiple times that they want to meet next time you're in town is very different from a person who hasn't talked to you ever and you don't really know much about them.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. So let's see, I'll continue on these. Yeah, I mean, saying some alumni, that's actually a very weak word in marketing. To use social influence properly, you generally want to say many alumni and maybe even give a brief example, but the example would need to resonate. So some alumni, not bad, many alumni, or adding many alumni like you, if they really are like him. Many alumni who graduated from the School of Engineering have been telling me, or like you see how I'm elaborating on it to make it more warmer and more relatable. This would be an opportunity to update you on what's happening on campus. I'll be honest that that's one of my pet peeves. It's just, maybe it's me personally, but generally, and you all tell me, generally people don't want updates. They want to be heard, seen, and they want to feel like they are re-engaging and deepening their connection on a different level. Now, an update, it's just so vague. So maybe I'll stop there and what are your thoughts? Because I always hear this from fundraisers saying, or I see the emails, I want to update you. I've even written my first book that a fundraiser came over to me and about my college and said, I'd like to update you. And I was like, wow, my office is right by the school. My father-in-law is the comptroller of the whole university. And he's been there for 25 years. I go to every single football and basketball game. What are you going to update me on? Like, I'm going to update you.
What I would rephrase it, and Greg, what I say is, in going back to what's in it for you, is I say it more as, and I would be pleased to answer any questions that you may have. And
It up for dialogue.
Right.
Engagement. Yeah, updating is kind of one way. Hearing your about them is engagement. Nice.
Well, and going back to Shalita's point is, I'd love to hear your story of your time at Cornell, you know, and, you know, again, not even, and then let them ask you questions, you know, ask the questions or whatever.
I had one person, well, there's one idea I came up with, by the way, as an outreach based on where they are in the consideration continuum. It's like, one way to outreach is to simply say, we've got your yearbook year digitized, and I'd love to share it with you. Would you be interested in that? Or, you know, I was curious if you'd be interested in getting a picture of your dorm. I mean, it's changed a little bit since you've been there, but I'm going to be walking by that. Would you like me to take a picture and share that with you? Something that's engaging in creating dialogue, but also helping people reminisce and reconnect their story to the cause. So I'm an idea generator. I could come up with those all day. The specificity of I'm free to meet anytime on Thursday, you know, that was actually pretty good too. That's a kind of a tried and true way of doing it. But, you know, the other parts of the email kind of made that null. This no assumptions part, we kind of beat that already. I felt it really needed truer personalization because this is a boots on the ground type of engagement. And in the end, the problem is targeting. Any marketing, and this is marketing, any outreach is going to be successful. 80% of the success comes from the quality of the list and the data that you have. So if she had better pre-qualification data because this person took a survey or engaged online or downloaded a certain report, she could have used what was supplied by the donor to be exponentially more relevant. So when I say the list she was targeting, she just didn't have the data to do the job right, and that's the biggest problem with this, in my humble opinion. So we do have about 5, 7, 8 minutes to move on to the next thing. Anybody, any last words on this before I move on? All right. So this is something, and Laura, you've already seen this, so sorry, but you're gonna see it again. So for many of you who've been on these meetings, we've talked a lot about something that I invented for the sector that I call the invitation. And the invitation is okay, I found it. And before I share my screen, I'll just remind you, the invitation is the stage in the fundraising process that I believe that if you do it and do it well, then you never actually have to solicit a gift, because the invitation happens early in the process, whereby in an early meeting or even a later meeting, but preferably as early as possible, you make it clear that you are their VIP conduit and concierge, and that you would like them to begin to work with you on a gift that's right for them at this stage in their life and based on what they can do. And if they accept your invitation, then you're going to guide them through a process to deepen their understanding so they can make a decision, even if it means to not give it all, that's right for them at this time. I believe that if you do the invitation right, then you really don't have to ask for a gift. There's no high wire act. There's no pressure, because they already said, yes, I'll collaborate with you on crafting a gift that's right-sized for me. So having said that, and can you all see my screen now, or are you seeing yourselves?
We
You're
can
not-
see ourselves.
You can? Hold on, let me go to the right. Oh, this one, sorry. Okay, there. All right. So what I developed here, and I hope it's big enough, I'll make it a little bigger so you can see, is something that I'm considering, and I don't know, the feedback I got from a couple people is that they would use it. But I believe that the invitation should be accompanied with a process graphic to help people understand. And I'm thinking like this guy, Rob, he definitely has the money. He doesn't understand the process. And frankly, he's never been through the process in a way that worked for him. That's why he's scared, if you will. But the process is, number one, I just want to get to know you better and understand your life story, values, the people you care about that intersect with our cause. And then number two is, okay, now that we know each other, and by the way, even in getting to know the person, you could say like, and by the way, this is our process if you choose to go forward. I think it would probably be best that this is done either during a discovery visit or after in the follow-up. But number two is you're going to offer this person an invitation, and that's clear here. And it says, you can benefit from my support as your insider conduit guide and advisor. So you gain a meaningful giving experience. If you accept this, I'll develop a roadmap to help you deepen your understanding and involvement so you can make an informed decision. Meaning, I'm going to create a roadmap. Yeah, let's go visit that dorm. Let's bring your kids and take a picture. Like, this is where it all began. Let's go meet Professor Williams. He's still here, you know? That would be on the roadmap. Next is, remember, you're always in control. You can delay or stop the process at any time. Number three is, after the roadmap, I mean, once they say yes to that, then you've got some work to do. You really have to develop that roadmap. And then you bring it to them and say, what do you think? Does this work? Do you want to go on the journey in this fashion? Because we're going to learn about specific programs, initiatives, and capabilities that we have. And we're going to review a menu of giving opportunities to see if any of them resonate. And we'll explore how you want to be recognized or remembered or left alone and made anonymous, and determine who else. Maybe you have financial advisors or a CPA or your family members, your kids want to be involved in the decision and figure out which assets might be the best ones. Maybe I know some ideas of ways that you can give more wisely. And we'll go through all of that, and that'll be in the roadmap to help you and I and the cause gain more alignment. Once we gain alignment, then we're going to develop a proposal for you, and I'll share that with you. And in that, we're going to want to make sure that the gift proposal aligns with your motivations and satisfies your needs and interests and desires that you first told me about in the very beginning, and that we learned and expanded upon as we gained alignment together over the past weeks, past months, maybe even years. Next, I'm going to refine the proposal based on your direction. We'll make adjustments. And then, by the way, I might have to tell you about some gift acceptance policies that will be no-goes or such, because, you know, there's certain rules we have to abide by here that have been decided on. But hopefully, you know, in most cases you won't have to worry about that, but we'll just tweak it until you're happy. And then either you'll sign the documents or transfer the assets, whatever it is. Don't worry, I'm never going to pressure you to do that. It's completely up to you. I might be politely persistent in reminding you, but usually people thank me for doing that in the end, because I'm not a bother. I'm just trying to help you get it done. And then I'm going to move into, well, this is our words, stewardship mode, where I'm going to make sure it was worthwhile for you. Confirm that you got what you wanted, prove that we did what we promised on your behalf, and express gratitude and the recognition in the way you requested it. And then I'm going to gauge interest in whether or not you might want to do this all again. And then now we already know each other, so I'll come around and offer you another invitation to go on another journey. All right, so that took longer than I thought, but maybe we'll save that for the next Mastermind Mixer, but trash it, or what do you think?
I have a little bit of advantage on everybody else because I've seen it earlier this week, but from a plain giving perspective, I'm looking at tweaking it just a little bit. But I like it. I like that you can take somebody through a process and that they feel like they're driving the bus and I'm just, you know, hey, we're doing the map. I'm telling you, well, if you want to go to San Diego from San Francisco, well, you can't take a left at Los Angeles, you know, and go out because you'll end up in Phoenix. You know, I can be their navigator. But
well, I have to give you more credit, Laura, because when we were talking about this, you were talking about the yellow brick road.
oh yes,
I think we've both been crafting that, where you're like, you know, and along the way, we might meet a scarecrow, and along the way, you know, and maybe you're the Tin Man. You didn't know you had a brain. Well, I'm telling you, you have a brain, or you didn't know you had a heart. Yeah, you have a heart. Let's go. We're going to see the Wizard of Oz. And I don't know if that analogy.
I love it. Yeah.
With others.
I love the yellow brick road and going to the Emerald City. You know, it's a great metaphor, I think. So I've been using it.
Stephanie, I hope you don't feel I'm picking on you, but you seemed really locked in when you were looking at this. So I'm really, and plus, you know, I'm just curious, what are your thoughts? You're on mute though.
I like what I'm reading. I'm kind of like Laura. I was trying to make it apply to my own situation. I mean, I could see this working beautifully in higher education. I represent international missions. And so I'm thinking, well, how can I make this apply? And I'm really moving in the way of planned gift versus major gift, but I want to stay open to both. I just need a little time to absorb it, but I like what I'm seeing.
And if you want to noodle it with me, I'm happy to brainstorm with you on it, because I agree. It's, yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Anyone have thoughts on that? Okay, then we'll bring it up maybe next time, because we're 1 minute over. Remember, there is a survey after this. If you have insights, if you want to give it a thumbs down, please do. Let me know how we can make this more interactive or better or more valuable to you. We want you to get your money's worth, even though it's free. So, but we'll see you next month. And I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you.